Christmas Cowboy by Shanna Hatfield. Narrated by Andreen. Chapter 1. This seat taken? Startled by the deep voice speaking close to her ear, Kenzie Beckett looked up into eyes the color of sapphires and momentarily lost the ability to speak. Shaking her head, she moved her oversized shoulder bag from the chair in question to a space near her feet. Sitting up straighter as a man stood looking down at her, she fought the urge to lick her suddenly dry lips. She'd noticed the handsome cowboy at the airport many times, but never had the opportunity to be this close to him. He smelled every bit as good as he looked. "Mind if I sit down?" he asked, pointing to the empty chair beside her. Taking a deep breath, she smiled and stuck out her hand as the cowboy folded himself into the seat, filling the space next to her with an appealing scent that made her think of leather, spices, and rugged masculinity. "I'm Kenzie," she said, pleased when he took her hand and gave it a firm yet gentle shake, causing an unsettling storm of electrical currents to rush up her arm. "Tate," he said, flashing a white-toothed grin, displaying 2 dimples through the scruffy stubble on his face. "Tate Morgan." "It's nice to meet you, Mr. Morgan," Kenzie said, smiling in return. Tongue-tied and awestruck, she couldn't believe she was sitting next to Tate Morgan, rodeo star. Although ranching and rodeos were no longer part of her life, she kept up with some of the details. The good-looking cowboy sitting next to her was one of the top saddle bronc riders in the world. She knew he was from Washington State, but never connected him to the Tri-Cities area where she lived. She absently wondered if he was from Kennewick, Richland, or Pasco. He must frequent the Pasco airport as often as she did with his rodeo travels. That was probably why she'd seen him there before, and why he was waiting in the seat next to her to board the flight to Denver. "Where are you traveling today?" "Tennessee," Tate replied, grateful he was late getting to the airport. The only seat left in the waiting area was the one next to the dark-haired beauty who caught his eye the last several times he flew out of town. "Call me Tate. All my friends do, and I certainly hope we'll be friends." Kenzie narrowed her gaze. She should have known he'd start flirting within seconds of sitting down. Give a man a pair of boots, a Stetson, and a pair of perfect-fitting Wranglers, and he'd take it as free license to flirt with any female crossing his path. "I don't make it a habit of becoming friends with people I randomly meet at the airport," Kenzie said, tearing her gaze away from Tate's gorgeous blue eyes. Closing the fashion magazine she'd been mindlessly reading before he startled her, she stuffed it in her bag and checked her watch again. "Really?" Tate asked, tipping back his Stetson and revealing a hint of light brown hair. "I figure once names are exchanged and handshakes are given, you're a friend, unless proven otherwise." "Oh?" Kenzie said, heat filling her cheeks at his words. He spoke in a friendly tone with a smile, but she recognized a rebuke when she heard one. What was it about this man that threw her off her game? A corporate trainer for one of the most successful direct sales companies in the country, she could get a room filled with consultants on their feet and enthusiastically following her direction with no problem. She could take on the corporate team, pitch ideas, and win them over to her way of thinking with hardly a blink. But put her next to a cowboy, especially one as attractive as Tate, and she lost the ability to function with any degree of logic or wisdom. A voice over the loudspeaker interrupted her thoughts, announcing another 15-minute delay for the Denver flight. Releasing a pent-up sigh, Kenzie opened a zippered pocket on her bag and pulled out her phone. She sent a text message to the organizer of the regional meeting in Denver she planned to lead later that morning, letting the woman know she would probably be late. Normally, Kenzie liked to arrive the day before an event, so she didn't run the risk of being late. It also gave her time to prepare to give her best to the consultants. The trainer originally found out she needed to be in Denver the previous evening. "Everything okay?" Tate asked, drumming his fingers on the arm of the seat. Despite his calm facade, he had a tight connecting flight, and if they didn't get moving, he was going to miss his plane. "It will be, if we can board and be on our way soon," Kenzie said, tugging on the navy skirt of her business suit. Although it was only early May, the airport was warm and stuffy, crowded as it was with people waiting for flights. "I'm leading a meeting in Denver, and unless we make up some time in the air, a few hundred consultants will be left waiting for me to get there. I don't like to keep people waiting." "That's good to know," Tate said, grinning again. "What is it you do?" Kenzie glanced over to see if he was genuinely interested, or just killing time. At the inquisitive look in his eyes, she relaxed a little. "I'm a corporate trainer with Do," Kenzie said, taking a business card from her bag and handing it to him. "We're a skincare company that's been around since the 1940s. Tate accepted the card from Kenzie and stared at the logo of a pale blue dewdrop with the word Do embossed in gold around the center. "Do?" Tate asked, thinking it an odd name for a company. "Where's the name come from?" Kenzie smiled, and Tate felt drawn to the light shining in her beautiful brown eyes. They reminded him of the molasses his dad was so fond of eating. Dark, rich, and sweet. "All women want a soft, dewy complexion," Kenzie said, biting her tongue to keep from launching into her usual spiel about the company and their superior products. "If they hired you to be a walking billboard, you'd do a great job," Tate said, causing Kenzie to blush again. "So, your company is all about stuff women use to preserve their youthful appearance?" "Basically," Kenzie said, convinced the outrageously handsome cowboy next to her would not understand the importance of moisturizers, lotions, and exfoliators to the health of aging skin. "So your people go door-to-door peddling goo?" Tate asked with a teasing grin. "No, they don't go door-to-door or peddle goo." Kenzie couldn't stop the smile lifting the corners of her mouth as she removed a catalog from her bag and handed it to Tate. He browsed through the glossy pages, noticing the company offered more than just lotions and potions. Do sold a collection for men, spa items, and gift options in what appeared to be a well-thought-out product line. "How does it work? How do your, what did you call them, consultants?" At Kenzie's nod, he continued. "How do they get catalogs into the hands of potential customers?" Tate asked. He was unfamiliar with the concept of direct sales, and if he found something he didn't know, he quickly set out to learn all he could on the topic. "Home parties. People invite friends into their homes and host parties. Consultants give a brief presentation and take orders. The party host receives freebies and discounted product for her trouble, and people get together for a fun hour or two while shopping in the comfort of someone's home," Kenzie said, warming to the subject. She put herself through college doing direct sales. Her passion for the industry, Do in particular, was why she was a well-respected corporate trainer at the age of 27. "If I invite a bunch of buddies to my house, set out some snacks, and have one of your consultants come show us your stuff, you give me freebies?" Tate asked, only halfway joking. If he could somehow coerce Kenzie into being the consultant, he'd host a party every month just to be able to see her. "In theory, that's how it works," Kenzie said, laughing as a visual popped into her head of Tate and his friends sitting around with facials dripping off their stubbly chins. "Of course, the freebies depend on your total orders for the party." Before Tate could ask more questions, the call to board rang through the airport. Assuming it was going to take a while, Kenzie started to gather up her belongings to make a final trip to the restroom. Watching what she was doing, Tate put a hand on her arm, drawing her attention. "You can leave your stuff here. I'll keep an eye on it," he said, nodding his head toward the restroom door. "Well, Kenzie said, surprised by his offer. She didn't know the man and shouldn't trust him, even if he did seem nice. "I promise not to run off with your stuff or touch anything," Tate said, holding his hand up like he was prepared to make a pledge. "Scout's honor. Besides, I look ridiculous toting that bright pink bag. It clashes with my shirt." Kenzie laughed, noticing just how well his burgundy shirt fit across his broad shoulders and chest. "Thank you," she said, getting to her feet. "I'll be right back." "No need to hurry," Tate said, looking at the long line of people waiting to board. Returning a few minutes later, she found Tate standing at the back of the line, both his bag and hers over his shoulder, her suit jacket draped over his arm. "I thought I'd better get in line since it's finally starting to move," Tate said, handing Kenzie her jacket. "Thank you." She took her bag from him and slid the strap over her shoulder. Digging in a side pocket, she pulled out her boarding pass and checked to make sure everything was just as she left it. Tate seemed like a good guy, but trusting handsome cowboys had gotten her into trouble before. "What have you got in that thing? Rocks?" Tate teased as they stepped closer to the door. "No, bricks." Kenzie grinned over her shoulder at him as she handed her pass to the ticket agent. Tate felt an unfamiliar twinge in the region of his heart as Kenzie took her boarding pass and walked out the door. Despite his experience with the opposite sex, he'd never had anyone affect him like the beautiful brunette. Merry Christmas.